Today, we're taking a look at Netflix's latest live-action adaptation of an action-packed manga, Demon City. The story is set in Shinjou City, Japan, a place with a chilling legend. Every 50 years, among millions, a bloodthirsty demon is born, one who sees human life as nothing more than weeds beneath his feet. While everyone fears this tale, the city's top Yakuza boss laughs it off, thinking his men are just being paranoid. To show his dominance, he casually picks up his steak knife and fork, slashing open his subordinate's mouth as a brutal warning. But karma doesn't miss. Suddenly, a lone man storms in, mowing down the Yakuza's men like chopping firewood so fast that even bullets can't keep up. The Yakuza boss scrambles to his car, only to find his driver already dead. With no other choice, he had no option but to retreat back inside the house. The assassin who came to kill finally encountered a worthy opponent. In a close-quarters brawl, they're evenly matched, but mid-fight, the man shifts tactics, grabs a nearby machete, slices off his opponent's left hand, and even snatches it like a trophy. Smooth, efficient, and cold-blooded. Step by step, he closes in on the boss. Dodging 5 bullets with ease, he calmly ends the boss's life in a moment of sheer terror. This man is Sakata, a hitman with no interest in good or evil, right or wrong. His only purpose is to kill, because that is his destiny as a top-tier assassin. But here's the twist: this merciless, unstoppable human weapon, at home, he's just an unemployed stay-at-home dad. He promises his wife that tomorrow, he'll start job hunting. Yet, while washing off the bloodstains in the bathroom, his daughter suddenly screams. A group of masked intruders surrounds their home. They introduce themselves as Kimen Group, and they're here to take over the city's entire underworld. While they thank Sakata for clearing out much of their competition, they can't afford to let such an unpredictable powerhouse roam free. Sakata's wife and daughter plead for mercy, but these cold-blooded killers treat human life like ants beneath their boots. In front of Sakata's eyes, his wife and daughter are slaughtered, pinned to the ground. Sakata himself is executed. To cover their tracks, the Kimen Group staged the whole scene, framing Sakata for murdering his own family before taking his own life. Time flies, 12 years pass, but fate had other plans. Amazingly, Sakata miraculously survived. The bullet never hit a fatal spot in his brain, though it left him severely damaged. Now, Sakata is nothing more than a paralyzed, drooling vegetable. His old friend bailed him out, hired a caregiver, and Sakata spent his days barely surviving. But even in such a pitiful state, Sakata's long list of enemies still came looking for revenge. One of them was the bodyguard Sakata had once dismembered, his left hand now replaced with a cold reminder of their encounter. Staring at Sakata's miserable, barely living form, the bodyguard sneered killing him would be too easy. Watching him rot away like this was far more satisfying. Later, Sakata was transferred to a hospital under police watch due to his criminal record. His old friend thought this was for the best, at least the police could keep him safe. But fate was not so kind. The current head of Shinjou City's homicide division was, in fact, one of the masked men responsible for slaughtering Sakata's family all those years ago. Seeing an opportunity, the captain secretly injected poison into Sakata's Ford drip while he lay unconscious, believing this would finally end it. But against all odds, Sakata suddenly woke up. However, his body was a shadow of its former self. A bedridden patient was no match for the masked killer. Just as the captain aimed his gun to finish the job, the 2 officers who had been sent away earlier unexpectedly returned. Alarmed by the noise, the captain tried to cover his tracks, claiming Sakata had suddenly gone berserk. But one of the officers, suspicious, couldn't help but question the captain's mask. Probing further, since you have so many doubts, the captain decided there was only one solution to silence them forever.
あとはお任せください。坂田がこいつの銃を奪い暴れたという体にしておきます。ありがとう。
Unexpectedly, the gunshot attracted the doctors. Just as the accomplices were about to kill the witnesses, Sakata launched a sudden attack. Sakata wrapped the 4 tubing around the captain's neck, tightening it and choking him with all his strength. Driven by sheer willpower, Sakata strangled the captain to death. then stumbled out of the hospital, staggering with every step. Haunted by vivid flashes of his wife's murder, Sakata's fragmented memories slowly pieced themselves back together. He remembered everything. But now, Sakata knew his first priority wasn't revenge, it was to bide his time, recover, and rebuild his body to its former peak. Meanwhile, the remaining members of the Kimen group had already carved up Shinjou City's entire underworld: human trafficking, crime syndicates, drug labs, all the filth hidden beneath the city's glamorous facade. To them, Sakata was the very embodiment of the legendary demon said to be born once every 50 years. They coerced one of Sakata's old friends, forcing him to kill Sakata and deliver his corpse to a repair factory used as a gang hideout. A man with a family and no other options, he had no choice but to comply. After confirming Sakata's identity, the gang casually dumped him onto a conveyor belt leading straight into an industrial crusher, sending his reluctant comrade away. But just as they thought the job was done, dead Sakata suddenly sat up. In an instant, the slaughter began. Beneath his feet, the thugs were nothing but ants. Sakata took on 10 men at a time, crushing wave after wave of attackers. When he finally got his hands on a gun, Sakata became unstoppable, cutting through every layer of resistance, step by step, closing in on the masked assassin. But the cowardly thug had no intention of fighting fair. He detonated explosives, blowing up the entire factory. Confident of his success, he reported back to his boss, eager for praise. Yet from the thick smoke, a shadow emerged. With support from an unexpected ally, he rammed the thug with a car, sending him flying.
Sakata.
That ally, however, was the same comrade who had once betrayed Sakata by leaking his location. Facing him now, Sakata simply said, "If you feel guilty, then I'm sorry too." Without mercy, he strung the masked man up and unleashed his pent-up rage. But even facing death, the man sneered, mocking Sakata for his short-sightedness. He rambled on about the Kimen group's grand plan, using their grip on Shinjou City to eventually control the entire nation, cleansing the world under their rule. Their leader, he revealed, was none other than the current mayor of Shinjou City. Just as Sakata's rage reached its boiling point, the boss revealed a shocking truth: Sakata's daughter, Ryo, was still alive. She was now living a quiet life as a high school student. If Sakata dared continue his revenge, they would kill her. Whether it was a lie or not didn't matter, as long as there was even a sliver of hope that his daughter was alive. Sakata knew he could not give up. Under the influence of the Kimen group, the entire city's police force was hunting Sakata. The group's leader, now acting as the city's mayor, used his political power to spread propaganda, painting Sakata as a public enemy. Though Ryo was indeed in their hands, the Kimen group knew that as long as Sakata lived, their troubles wouldn't end. The problem was no one knew where Sakata had gone. In reality, Sakata had been laying low, hiding in random homes while secretly searching for his daughter and evading Kimen group's relentless pursuit. By pure coincidence, he ended up in the home of a retired police officer. Strangely enough, the old man showed no hostility toward the city's most wanted man. As it turned out, he had once served under the now-dead homicide captain and had long been aware of the dirty business of hiring killers to silence inconvenient people. Driven by his sense of duty, the old officer had asked his brother to secretly investigate, but the inquiry cost his brother's life. The gang sent him a severed finger as a warning to stop. Weakened by age and lacking allies, he had waited for the right moment. Now, Sakata was the perfect instrument for his revenge. The old man knew where Ryo was being kept, but warned that the place was heavily guarded and required a careful approach. But Sakata? Planning wasn't his style. His motto was simple: my fate is mine alone. Broad daylight, lone wolf, straight in. Following the old man's directions, Sakata found photos of his daughter in one of the rooms. Since Ryo was present, he had no choice but to put on the facade of an ordinary citizen. Scolding Sakata for trespassing, he angrily stormed forward, trying to drive him away. But the moment he spoke, Sakata recognized his voice. It was the same masked man who had murdered his wife. And right now, the masked man was out of bullets. But just as Sakata turned, Ryo fired an arrow straight into his chest. Afraid that his facade would be exposed, the masked man pushed Sakata off the balcony. Yet, when he looked down, Sakata had vanished. That's right, it was the elderly retired police officer who saved him. Pulling Sakata to safety, the old officer pulled out the arrow that had been shot into Sakata, but what hurt him more than the blade was the cold truth: his own daughter no longer recognized him, mistaking the masked killer for her real father. Raised from a young age under the masked man's manipulation, Ryo truly believed he was her father, unaware that he coveted only her vulnerable body. At that moment, the Kimen Group's leader called, threatening Ryo's life and forcing Sakata to come to the new casino for a final showdown. He had no choice. Returning to his old home, Sakata retrieved his stash of weapons. Among them, his favorite, the legendary thousand-man slayer Machete. Suited up, he fired up his old muscle car. The final battle was inevitable. The last 3 members of the Kimen Group were in full battle mode, backed by an army of heavily armed mercenaries. As Sakata's car slowly approached, 2 mercenaries closed in, only to realize the car was empty. Sakata had entered through the back, machete in hand. With deadly precision and deceptive footwork, he danced through the enemy lines, cutting down over 20 men in moments. The brutal close-quarters fight in the narrow stairwell was nothing short of a war god's rampage. Ryo's so-called father couldn't resist stepping into his own doom. Within just 3 moves, Sakata gouged out his eyes, sending him straight to hell. Exhausted but unstoppable, Sakata fought his way through the enemy horde, finally reaching the rooftop. There, he found Ryo, but the fear in her eyes pierced deeper than any blade. Unbeknownst to Sakata, she wasn't afraid of him. She was trying to warn him about the danger creeping up behind. The leader was determined to personally behead Sakata, claiming only he, the so-called chosen one, had the right to slay the demon. But before that, he wanted to kill Ryo first to completely break Sakata, pushing him into madness and making him the true demon. At the critical moment, the old man arrived with a machine gun, spraying bullets and creating chaos. Amid the gunfire, Sakata roared Ryo's name, shouting loud enough to awaken her long-lost childhood memories. Seeing Ryo safely escorted away by the old man, Sakata, now free of any worries, picked up his trusty machete and charged at the leader. Though exhausted and battered, Sakata's greatest weapon had always been his unyielding will. Memories of his wife's tragic death burned in his mind as he pressed on, holding true to his mantra, "If I'm not dead, I'll fight to the end." Finally, he defeated the last of the Kimen Group's masked henchmen, but as the mask fell, a shocking truth was revealed. The man looked exactly like the leader. They were twins. Their master had always told them, "Your lives are forever tied together." Yet, the younger twin had betrayed this bond, murdering their own master in cold blood. The leader had long despised his brother's treachery. Fed up with family loyalty, he shoved his twin's corpse aside. The final battle was inevitable. The leader was swift and ruthless. Within just 2 moves, Sakata's left arm was severed, but even with one arm, crawling on the ground, he vowed to kill the scum. The leader, seeing Sakata's deranged persistence, only grew more exhilarated. Both men swung their blades, aiming for each other's carotid artery. In a battle between masters, life and death are decided in milliseconds. In a cowardly move, the leader stabbed Sakata in the abdomen, hoping to force him back, but fate had other plans. Halfway out, Ryo couldn't bear to abandon her father again. She turned back, just when it seemed like a touching father-daughter reunion was within reach. Ryo's fake father launched a sneak attack.
無事だったか。
お前は私のお母ちゃんを殺した。
亮、お父さんはな。
Though Sakata fulfilled his vengeance, holding Ryo in his arms, his body could no longer endure. He passed away with Ryo by his side. But the story wasn't over. It turned out the mayor's twin brother had survived. He was the real demon all along, scheming from the shadows to replace his brother. On live television, he paraded himself as a hero, boasting about his brave fight against criminals and vowing to protect the city as mayor. But behind closed doors, as he stared at his brother's mask, a sinister grin crept across his face. Yet, he forgot one crucial thing: Ryo had seen her real father kill the mayor with her own eyes. The film ends here, but the story is far from over. Alright, that's it for today's movie breakdown. See you in the next episode.